I did speak to a number of other estate agents during my plan of whether I was going to become a landlord and rent out the property, and I did speak to some very good agents elsewhere, but I just felt that when I spoke to Martyn Gerrard that they just seemed to have a bit more experience and kind of had good qualifications and really just knew what they were doing and kind of quick and snappy, and I just had a good feeling about using them, so that's why I went with them in the end, even though there was lots of others that I could have used and even some perhaps closer, etc. But I just had a good feeling about Martyn Gerrard with their professionalism, I guess, and experience. So I went with them in the end. When I first started speaking to Anthony on email and on the phone, I was impressed with his kind of professionalism, with getting back to me quickly and knowing exactly what I was talking about with great answers, because he had a lot of experience and he was like a qualified with, even from the point of view of just being able to provide a idea of the rental value of the property that I could give to the remortgaging bank. So just things like that where I needed it in writing on signed headed paper, he got back to me very quickly with that, and because he's qualified to all of the requirements of that kind of thing, the bank took that statement straight away. And then from there, yeah, he's just really good, professional, easy to get hold of, and very good. I felt that I could trust them and that have the experience they had, and the fact that they were kind of a good sized firm, not too small, maybe not too large, and kind of had a personal experience, but not so small that you would worry that they didn't have a lot of experience. So I guess it was just the right size firm for the sort of thing I wanted, and I felt like I could trust them, and I had a good relationship with Anthony and felt like I respected what he said, so I took his advice along the lines on some of the instances that we were discussing in terms of renting out the property. I'm a first-time landlord, and I did a lot of research myself before even speaking to Martyn Gerrard, because I wanted to make sure I was aware of the regulations, because there's been a lot of changes and you have to be aware. Even if you might want to rely on a professional firm, it's good to know yourself. So I did do a lot of the checks and the research myself beforehand, but then when I was speaking to Martyn Gerrard, I felt like they were really on top of it and kind of reassured me. So although I knew what they were saying was right because I'd done the research myself, even if I hadn't have done that research, they were across it and able to reassure me and went through all of the regulations and things that you needed and gave you advice on that. So I felt confident that they really knew what they were talking about. And even as a first-time landlord, perhaps that hadn't done much research, I'd feel that you could rely on them to give you a lot of advice and sort of take the burden off you and be able to rely on them to meet the regulations, basically. I'm really happy with the tenant they found me. The market hasn't been great because of the pandemic, so it's been perhaps tricky in terms of what rent we may have got, but that was something across the board because of the pandemic. But in the end, they were really professional, gave me an advice about what they thought would be achievable, and then we found someone that hopefully, touch wood, is a long-term good tenant that we've had success with and is paying their rent, so we're happy. Definitely recommend using Martyn Gerrard to friends or family in the area who needed property services or estate agency advice. I've had a good experience with them and a good relationship with them and felt confident that they do a good job, so I would definitely recommend them to anyone else who needs them.